In today's video, the primary focus is going to be a potential major snowstorm in the northeastern states and also a second one potentially on the way afterwards. Let's just dive into things, and really when we're taking a look at the current conditions, we see this flow of Gulf moisture, and this is going to play a massive role later on. We also see the focus of yesterday's video, which is that kind of Pacific jet, very strong Pacific jet. Both of these features are going to come in key, really, for what is going to become a major snowstorm for the Northeast states, as I mentioned. As we kind of move things on, we see this Pacific jet is not expected to slow down anytime soon. Still, by the time we're reaching Friday morning time frame, we still have this Pacific jet really flowing in. And this comes as a result of a massive ridge that is set up over the eastern states. Guys, today, I'm making this video very late, but today on Wednesday, January 24th, the beautiful weather. I mean, come on now. It was 72 degrees, I believe, here in Virginia. Absolutely stunning. We got quite a bit of sun. I hope a lot of you got to get out and enjoy it because it was absolutely incredible how beautiful this weather was. It's not going to be that way very long as storminess is going to move in. Also, snowfall opportunities as, of course, winter is going to make a comeback here. This will not last forever, of course. We might have to wait multiple months before we have a string of multiple days like this ahead of us. It might be March or even April timeframe for some of us. Now, by the time we're reaching Sunday time frame, this is when we're going to see this storm really shaping up. What we end up having is this Pacific jet that's really been split now by this point. So we see it kind of not really intruding on the western states as much anymore. We actually have cold air diving in finally to the east and a ridge building in the west overall due to this Pacific jet really throwing the warm air on shore. And this cold air combined with the Gulf Stream that's still set up moving into the eastern states is all going to come together here and cause a potential major snowstorm here, specifically for New England, but also states like Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, and even some mid-Atlantic states, perhaps like West Virginia there, Maryland, Virginia, DC, Delaware. There is a chance that we see impacts as far south as those areas as well. So we're moving into Sunday, and as we move into Sunday kind of afternoon, kind of late afternoon into the evening, we see a low developing offshore Virginia here as a 999 millibar low pressure center. Already seeing some wintry precipitation developing here to the north for Pennsylvania, New York, even New Jersey there. Definitely playing a big role here. Let's just zoom into the east so we get a better view here. And as we can see, as we move on, this is going to get more and more wintry, of course, as we move on to the overnight hours, as we reach those low temperatures. We see snowfall in areas like Virginia, West Virginia, portions of Maryland, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York here, southern New England as well, beginning to get some snowfall by the time we're reaching around 2 a.m. here on Monday, January 29th. Now, we do see this low is rapidly intensifying as it's gone from a 999 during the late evening and now in the overnight hours reaching down to a 992 millibar low pressure center. So this is intensifying really quickly. Also keep in mind in eastern Pennsylvania, southern New York here, and northern New Jersey, this is extremely heavy snowfall. So falling at rates of maybe 1 or 2 inches per hour, definitely coming down quite heavily according to this projection. It continues to intensify as we're reaching around 6 a.m. here on Monday, January 29th, down to a 989 millibar low pressure center. Certainly a very intense system and rapidly intensifying. Now it begins to take kind of, after it's taken this northern curve, it begins to kind of move south again here, and this will cause things to come to a little bit of a quicker end here for southern New England and the rest of the mid-Atlantic as this low perhaps moves away from the area. Eventually, of course, we see heavier snowfall, now kind of moderate to slightly heavy, I would say, not the heaviest snowfall we've seen, but definitely on the heavier end of things here for New Jersey, New York, and southern New England as well. As we continue this on past kind of the late afternoon into the evening, it eventually comes into an end by the time we're reaching early on Tuesday morning. Let's call it, 3 a.m. or so. We're left with very cold air here as we have a pretty small trough. It's intense, but it's actually quite small as it's only reaching from the Great Lakes to just offshore of the East Coast. And in the grand scheme of things, it's not a very wide trough whatsoever. Now, I want to note a couple of things here. Let's backtrack. We see this high pressure system set up there in Canada. It's right here, very top here. We have a high pressure system. Now, this is a very strong one. 1,030 millibar high pressure system here. Definitely very, very intense. Now, the models tend to want to overdo these and strengthen them. And this is really the factor that's causing this low to begin to move south because, again, you learned this in school, but low pressure systems don't want to move towards high pressure systems. They want to move away. So this is starting to dodge it as this high pressure is expanding over time. And that's what causes this kind of southern turn in things. If this is overdoing it, which again they tend to do, then likely this would be a little bit weaker, and we would likely see this low actually not take that southern turn, and it would do more like this as opposed to what it really does on this model run, which is head south. That would make a massive difference if it takes that northern route, and we would likely see inches more of snowfall here for southern New England, which we're going to see in a moment, but it's already going to be pretty high as is. If we see it take that more northern track, and that's assuming that the models are overdoing the high pressure there, we likely would be seeing even higher amounts than what we're seeing projected. This has great potential to be a very major snowstorm, perhaps one of the more major ones of the year. Classic Miller B nor'easter storm for the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. Now, I just want to go back to the national view, wrap things up here. We see it's very quiet out west as we have this massive ridge. Again, these models do tend to overdo these, so keep that in mind as well. But for now, it's strong enough on this model run to really make all of these storms dodge the western states. So again, the focus yesterday was just the intensity of these storms moving onshore to the west and the consistency of them. That does appear to come to an end here, although we do expect that to make a comeback here, as you can see, by the time we're reaching about the kind of 31st first time frame. As you can see, the west is dealing with a lot of storminess by this point. We also get a classic snowstorm moving in from the north up there in Canada, kind of like a clipper. It's not an Alberta clipper because it's certainly not coming from there. This one's coming much, much more from the central regions of Canada straight down. And this one also poses a pretty big risk to these areas. Let's call it the Great Lakes, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeast there. By the time we're reaching the first into the second, look at how it dives down with just enough cold air here over the Northeast to cause some snowfall for Pennsylvania, New York here. And eventually into New England, as this one kind of becomes a Miller B nor'easter as well as a 993. Heavy snowfall here in the Northeast again, and that eventually comes to an end. And look, at the end of the model run here on February 3rd, better yet, we have a lot of storms moving onshore to the west once more. Snowfall for the Rockies, of course, and the Sierra Nevadas, and then rainfall for your lower elevation areas. But the Pacific isn't really looking to end anytime soon. There's just a slight pause in there where we get a quieter 2 or 3 days there towards the end of January. But things do look to pick back up in that Pacific jet very shortly. Now, the total precipitation through this entire model run, obviously very high along this western seaboard. Also for the southeast up to the mid-Atlantic and northeast, we have that kind of Gulf flow that's leading towards a lot of precipitation in this area as well. Now, the total snowfall around the nation, obviously very large amounts out west, as we noted. That Pacific jet stream moving through is going to bring storms. It is going to bring milder temperatures, but the Rockies, their temperatures are very, very low on average. So even seeing above average temperatures is still below freezing. So really, they just cash in on the moisture, and it brings massive amounts of snowfall to these mountain ranges. In the east, we have a very large amount here as well. Let's take a zoomed in look. This is encompassing both storms, by the way, but we do expect a dusting, if anything, here in the grays. 2 to 6 inches here in the blues. Purples are 6 to 10, and then your pinks here are 10 to 20 inches. We're even crossing over that 20-inch line for a few areas. As of now, we expect this area to have the most snowfall. Again, that low is kind of moving southward. If it takes a more northern track, let's say something more along those lines, it doesn't even have to do that much, but if it's doing something along these lines as opposed to heading southward here, we would be seeing, first off, heavier snowfall amounts a little bit further north here, but not only that, a lot of these areas here, I would say especially here in southern New England, would be quite higher, perhaps add about 5 inches or more of snowfall if that kind of second possibility that I've mentioned throughout this video takes place. So certainly very interesting things ahead. Despite the overall milder Gulf pattern that we find ourselves in, we still sneak away with a potential major snowstorm here in the upcoming pattern. And really, if we're being honest, I mean, only a few days away as it's expected at the end of this weekend. So definitely something to keep our eyes on. We're going to be tracking it daily, so be sure to subscribe as we do upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.